This channel is made possible by viewers like you. My viewers, subscribers, and patrons greatly help to keep this channel going. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all of you. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any uploads. And if you'd like to go the extra mile, please check out my Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you'll get access to what I'm working on, previews of upcoming content, and even early videos, along with other tier options for those that are interested. Thank you, and now on to the video. The Immortals of Aveum was one of those titles from 2023 that got overlooked by many. I think a few things killed the release of this game. For one, it was released right after the massive success of Baldur's Gate 3, and then a few weeks later, following the release of Immortals, we saw all the attention on Starfield. Immortals got sandwiched between two very big games, and I think that played a part in this title just being passed by. What I also think didn't help was the lack of marketing from EA. Immortals had a big publisher behind it, and you barely heard about the game before and during its release. Generally, you see this type of stuff when a publisher wants to hide a game that is not that good. But in the case after playing and beating this title, Immortals is a really good game. It has its flaws for sure, but it is a title that deserved more than it got, and it is one that I think is worth checking out now. So Immortals of Aveum at its core is a first-person shooter, but how it's portrayed is a bit different. For example, instead of guns, you have access to various spells to use. Your main three are what you'll be using the most. Blue is your precision-like shots, that while it's great at all-around attacks, it's your go-to for mid to long-range shooting. Green is your machine gun and great for mid-range fighting, whereas your red power is your shotgun for the up-close enemies. You'll be switching to your different powers often, especially during the second half of the game. The combat arenas like to throw at enemies with colored shields, and you need to respond with that color power to take them down. The spells both look and sound good. I like the impact effects from killed enemies being blasted back as you take them down. These spells do need to be reloaded, but you never run out of ammo for them. But you have stronger magical powers that will cost you mana to use. These will allow you to send parts of the ground at your enemy, send out homing blasts, or even create a big explosion. Combat is one of the best parts of the game. Between your powers and various enemies you fight, the situations are kept interesting for most of the game's length. Defense-wise, you have a dash of sorts which is on a cooldown, and then you have your shield. This allows you to pop up some mobile cover, and you can still fire while using it. I never got tired of the slow motion effect that would occur when an enemy breaks your shield. This also gives you some time to reassess your next move as well. You also have some items like a leash that is good for pulling in enemies, along with a beam that can disrupt many enemy spellcasters, and blobs that can slow down enemies before they get to you. Immortals is a fairly linear game, and I mean that as a positive. It's refreshing to play a big budget title that is all about ushering you to the next story beat. There are opportunities for exploration as well. Areas are full of nook and cranny stuff to find, and everything is worth grabbing. There's even some Metroid-like elements where returning to old areas with new powers will open up more locations for you. Traversal is pretty good as well, as you can double jump, hover, and pull yourself to other locations with your leash. While not super involved, I really liked riding the ley lines to get around some of the areas too. Defeating enemies will net you with experience points, and you have 3 skill trees to invest your points into. Do not expect a lot in a way of build customization here, but you do get to choose the order of those unlocks. Along with this, there is an equipment and loot system here too. This is fairly basic, but it does allow for some options outside of better stats, like some spell options can change for how they operate. For example, your red spell can be this extremely short-range blast, or you can launch out 3 that go a bit further but don't hit as wide. Again, Immortals is linear, but it has some side things to do along with post-game quests and challenge rooms. The best ways to describe this experience is that it is a direct one. It took me about 10 hours to beat the main story, and add on about 5 or more to clean up all the other stuff if you want to do that too.
I'm wondering at every third word.
Distracted. Go, go, go.
No one cares about Arsene Norman.
Pull it off.
Sandrak's coming our way.
Got it. Let's go.
Story-wise, I liked Immortals. It does feel like you've seen much of this structure done before, but it's entertaining the whole way through. There's even some humor thrown in, and about 50% of the time it lands. The consistency of the humor could have been done better, and I wish there was some more physical stuff because what is there is pretty funny. For me, Jack and his journey is what kept me invested on the story side of things. When it comes to the flaws, I did run into a fair amount. For one, when I started the game, the initial cutscene locked up and I had to restart. This is not the best way to start your game. There's an action taken by a character at the start that feels very forced, and then a related reveal that is way too predictable, to the point that there's no mystery behind it. Immortals needed some more help on delivering on the emotional side of things. I had a handful of instances where I had graphical issues that were present in some of the cutscenes. There were a few times where the AI would just stand there and not attack me at all as well. I also took issue with the sameness of the boss fights. Generally, I enjoyed the spectacle of them. They start out pretty strong, like fighting a dragon, but most of them play out the same way. Sometimes some of them might have a shield that you need to take down. The final boss is also a recycled fight from earlier in the game too. There are also these snake-like enemies that pop up way too often, and are a chore to do by the end of the game. It's the same thing each time. My next point is going to be an odd one. Why was this game rated M? Besides a handful of F-bombs and a few instances of blood, this game really did not lean into its M rating at all. Combat is generally very bloodless, and more focused on the flashy spell effects. I think the game could have passed for a teen title, if they had changed just some stuff. I honestly thought it was a teen game until I got a random F-bomb here and there. Again, I know this might seem odd, but Immortals felt like it was a light M-rated title, and was trying to oddly ride that line by doing it. Immortals also knows how to deliver some fun set-piece-like sequences, or even bigger battles. I just wish that there were a few more set-piece-like stuff in the game. What was here is good when they popped up, I just wanted a few more of them. Lastly, the final quarter of the game includes way too many fights with very spongy enemies. Some of these fights are even harder than the boss fights you'll encounter. This sort of stuff made Immortals feel like it needed more balancing within this area, because at times these fights could go on for far too long. Again, I like the game, but it needed some refinements in these areas. Immortals of Aveum is an overlooked title. I really like the uniqueness they were trying to pull off with the spells, like with the first-person shooting. The action is familiar with enough of a twist to give the game its own identity. Plus, the forward-moving nature of the title was refreshing, as you are pretty much always focused on the story, with some options for exploration. I want to see more games like this as options for gamers. Not everything needs to be a 100-hour experience. We need titles like this that can be beaten over a long weekend. I really enjoyed this one though. By the end, I did feel like it needed some more refinements to make the game great. The foundation here is pretty good, to the point that I would be open for a sequel, just to see where the characters go and how the world develops. Plus, the game looks pretty good, and I really enjoyed much of the soundtrack. The developers really had something here, and it's honestly a shame that I don't think we're going to see more from this world. After this game released, it sold poorly. Many people from the studio were also laid off. I think much of this could have potentially been prevented if the game had better marketing behind it, and released at a better time as well. If you're looking for an entertaining story with good combat, and a generally satisfying experience, then I would recommend you check this one out. Have you played the Immortals? If so, let me know your thoughts on it down below. If you're interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of the links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.